it's become apparent that going back to original might be too much, because this tank here, it's just chockers with rust. Now this bike came to me, essentially it had an engine matching the frame, it had a fuel tank and the frame, that was it. If we're not going original, what are we going to do? Well, I went to Pinterest and I started looking at colour schemes, paint finishes, started getting an idea of what I wanted to do. I had a look at these Brat style bikes, I really liked them. I really liked that bike in particular. But then these two came along and I think I'm going to build one of them. So what I've been doing is just cobbling together bits and pieces to get the job underway. This is the front end off a TT 250, which is that one there, but they fit. So rebuild those shocks, that'll be my front end, and we'll use the TT 250 wheel, which doesn't have as big a drum as the original one, but it'll do the job. Then once we've got the front end sorted, now we have to start to think about tanks. And you can buy aftermarket tanks pretty cheap, but I'm thinking along these lines at the moment. That's a little Honda CT200 tank. They've got a nice shape to them. If I can get that to sit down in the right spot, I think that'll look quite good. But the problem with it is we have to put some mounts in to get it all to line up through here, get it clean, get it painted, whatever. The other problem with this tank is, although it looks good, and I do like the look of it, it only holds 6 litres. So that's going to give us a range of about 120 kilometres, which, you know, might be acceptable some days, and if it looks good, we can put that on. But what I'll do is I want to make up a bracket so that I can mount that tank onto this mounting point out the back here, and make it so that it can also accommodate this tank. So this is a squarer style tank off an AG 100, another steel tank. We get it sitting down right, we get a nice paint job on it. It's a little bit squarer, not as nice a tank as that one, but this is 11 litres, so this is going to give me about 220, 240 kilometre range. So I need a tank like this, and I need one that looks good. So try and make up a bracket that lets me mount the two tanks from one point without having to adjust the frame. I don't like chopping frames, particularly on good old bikes like this. With handlebars, this Brat style that I like the look of, they tend to have big, broad, wide 70s style handlebars. And I like the look of these handlebars off this little AG 100. See how they've got a real width to them, and they've got a nice taper. So I'm thinking something like that. If I'm going full Brat style, I'll be using these. A set of Royal Enfield guards, steel guards, which I'll paint up front and rear there. I've also picked up a set of Hooligans shocks, bought them new. Now let's remind ourselves why we're building this bike. So just getting these tanks ready for the next bit of sanding. They're getting close. Anyway, $1 Million Bogan, great channel. Danny Hayes travels the world on his Harley Davidson, makes us laugh, makes us think. It's just enjoyable stuff. Harley Davidson's taken him to task because they think Danny Hayes is politically incorrect. Think about this, Harley Davidson is having a crack at someone for being politically incorrect. That company from the land of Trump telling the rest of the world how to behave. Am I the only one that thinks Harley Davidson has gone mad? But anyway, Danny Hayes, forget about Harley Davidson. I've got nothing to say to them other than a bunch of wankers, but Danny Hayes, keep going, mate. We love the videos. This is the AG 100 that the other tank came off, and this is the mounting bracket. So what I'm thinking is I'll cut this off here, and then I'll manufacture something to go back to that original bolt hole on the XT frame. So I'm just doing a bit of work on these little tanks. This is the Honda tank we saw earlier, just sanded it back. Starting to get a few of the dings out of it. And this is the Yamaha tank. Now neither one of these were terribly straight. They all needed a bit of work. This one's a bit low, still a bit low. Anyway, another round of filler. Bit more sanding. And we'll get there. So that's the little mounting bracket off the old frame, the old Ag 100 frame that suits the Ag 100 tank. So what I've got to do, work out the height it's got to be, and then put a saddle under it so it sits above the frame at the correct height, and then work out how to connect it back to that original mount. Now if I do that, I think we'll be able to use both tanks. So this is the motor for the XT500. It's been all pulled apart. You can see the new gaskets all the way through. Everything's been pulled apart, fully inspected. New piston and rings, one size over. Other than that, everything was pretty good in this motor. So it's gone back together pretty good. It's sitting here waiting to get painted. And so progress for the weekend. We've got the tanks ready for paint. I've made up a bracket, I'll show you that later. This is the little Honda tank on it. And I reckon that's looking pretty good. Won't get me far, but anyway, I might carry fuel. This is an Ag 100 seat, which really does look nice, especially with the Enfield guard on. So that's starting to come together pretty good. Just got to come up with some mounts for these tanks. Now there's the original tank mounting bracket. That's just an old hinge. I just cut that up for a bit of an idea, but I'm thinking something like that to mount the tanks. But Danny and Colin and all the crew, $1 Million Bogan, keep the videos coming. We love them.